Hey there, welcome back to Behind Your Mind. I'm really glad you're here. Today's episode touches on something that's not just personal, it's a little uncomfortable, too. But in the best way possible. Because it challenges us to look inward, to be honest with ourselves in ways that most people never dare to. Let me ask you something quietly. Have you ever caught yourself dismissing someone's feelings? Or maybe twisting the story just a bit to come out looking better? Have you ever needed constant validation and felt a sting when it didn't come? You might think, well, that's just being human, right? And yes, it is. But sometimes those human habits start to blur into something else. Something that, if we're not careful, can grow silently. Today, we're asking the bold question, am I becoming a narcissist? Let's explore this together, not from a place of judgment, but from compassion. Let's talk about the subtle signs, the small shifts in mindset, the patterns that creep in without warning. We're not here to label. We're here to learn, to understand, and most importantly, to grow. When we hear the word narcissist, we often imagine someone flashy, arrogant, perhaps even manipulative. The loudest voice in the room. The person who makes everything about themselves. But narcissism doesn't always wear a neon sign. Sometimes it whispers. It hides behind charm, self-doubt, even kindness. Psychologists distinguish between two broad types of narcissism, grandiose narcissism and vulnerable narcissism. Grandiose narcissists are what we often imagine, confident, even domineering. But vulnerable narcissists are more covert. They might appear shy, overly sensitive to criticism, or even self-effacing. But beneath that is a hidden need for validation, admiration, or control. This matters because subtle narcissism isn't always visible, even to the person living with it. And sometimes that person might be us. Let's talk about some quiet signs that narcissistic traits might be creeping into your behavior. Again, this doesn't mean you are a narcissist. But reflection is where growth begins. 1. Constant need for validation. Do you find yourself checking how many likes your post got? Over and over? Do you feel uneasy when someone doesn't praise your work, even though it's good? Validation is a human need. But when your mood or self-worth hinges on external approval, it might be time to pause. 2. Dismissing others' feelings. Let's say someone shares their hurt by something you did. Do you feel defensive? Do you say things like, "You're overreacting," or "That's not what I meant"? You might be protecting your ego, not their emotion. 3. Hijacking conversations. Notice this. When someone tells you about a hard day, do you respond by talking about your own day instead? Or when someone shares a win, do you feel the urge to share yours too? So you're not left behind? This is subtle narcissism in conversation. It's less about attention-seeking and more about emotional centering. 4. Resentment toward criticism. Even gentle feedback feels like an attack. You replay it. You feel misunderstood. You want to explain yourself, or worse, you pull away completely. This is one of the hardest signs to notice because it feels like we're just being sensitive. But a healthy ego can absorb feedback without falling apart. 5. A quiet superiority complex. You might not say it out loud, but maybe, deep inside, you believe most people just don't get it like you do. That your way is the smarter way. That you're different in a better way. It's okay to value your perspective. But when you start placing yourself above others mentally, it builds disconnection. Now here's the insight that matters. Most people with narcissistic tendencies didn't wake up one day and choose to be self-absorbed. Often, these traits stem from early experiences of rejection, neglect, or inconsistent love. When a child grows up needing to perform to be loved, they learn to center themselves for survival. They become hyper-attuned to how others see them, constantly scanning for approval, admiration, or threat. And that pattern? It can follow us into adulthood. Let's meet Aaron, a 28-year-old graphic designer. Aaron's coworkers describe him as talented but difficult. He never takes critique well. In meetings, he always finds a way to shift the topic back to his work. At home, Aaron often complains to his partner that he feels underappreciated. But when his partner expresses exhaustion, Aaron accuses them of being selfish. In therapy, Aaron realized something hard. He didn't feel seen as a child. Now, his adult self is constantly trying to be seen, even at the cost of others' emotional space. Let's make something very clear. Valuing yourself isn't narcissism. In fact, developing healthy self-worth is essential to emotional resilience and connection. But narcissism often comes from a fragile ego wrapped in performance. There's a quiet but powerful distinction. Self-worth says, I am enough. Narcissism says, I must be better than others to feel enough. One is rooted in inner calm, the other in comparison, control, and often fear. If you find yourself constantly comparing, ranking yourself, or mentally competing, pause. What are you really trying to prove? And more importantly, to whom? Because here's the thing, narcissism doesn't protect us from pain. It protects us from feeling vulnerable. But vulnerability? That's where real connection lives. Our closest relationships often reflect back who we are. And sometimes they show us patterns we don't see in ourselves. Here are a few more signs that subtle narcissism might be shaping how you show up. 1. Emotional withholding. Do you pull away emotionally when you feel misunderstood or unappreciated, even if no one meant harm? That withdrawal can feel like control to others, a way to punish or test. 2. Centering your emotions in every conflict. When your partner expresses hurt, do you immediately make it about your feelings? For example, you're upset? Well, imagine how I feel. This isn't empathy. This is emotional redirection. 3. Needing to be the good one. Do you always have to be the one who's right, the one who tried harder, the one who forgave more? It may sound like maturity, but underneath it, you might be holding a subtle moral superiority, which disconnects you from true humility. 4. Apologies that aren't really apologies. You might say, I'm sorry you feel that way. Or, I didn't mean it, so you shouldn't be hurt. These deflections maintain your emotional image, instead of taking true accountability. Let's be honest, no one wants to think they might be a narcissist. Even the word feels heavy, sharp, and loaded with shame. But part of the reason narcissism is so damaging is because it hides in the shadows of denial. That's why self-reflection is so powerful. Here's an insight worth holding on to. The very act of wondering, am I becoming a narcissist, is already a sign of awareness. Narcissistic traits thrive when unexamined. But when brought into the light, with kindness, not cruelty, they begin to soften. Let's talk about Maya, a 35-year-old team leader in a tech company. Maya often felt overlooked growing up, the middle child, the peacemaker, the one who had to do well so no one would worry. As an adult, she became fiercely independent, driven, and successful. But something started to happen. Her colleagues described her as distant and dismissive. Her partner told her he felt like he was always trying to earn her affection. Maya felt confused, hurt, misunderstood. In therapy, she realized she developed a belief. I must always be the strong one. I can't show need. This meant she never made space for others' feelings, always had to win emotional arguments, and shut down when vulnerability showed up. Her growth started when she said out loud, maybe I am protecting something, not expressing something. From there, she began softening, asking more, listening deeper, and most importantly, feeling safer just being herself. That's the real work. Let's take a moment now. If you've heard something today that hit a little close to home, breathe. You're not broken. You're human. Here are some ways to begin shifting narcissistic tendencies. 1. Practice mindful listening. Challenge yourself to be fully present when others talk. No interrupting. No waiting for your turn. Just presence. 2. Ask, what am I defending right now? When you feel the urge to explain, justify, or win, ask yourself what fear is underneath. Are you scared of being wrong? Of being less loved? 3. Learn to apologize fully. A real apology says, I hear how I hurt you and I'm sorry. I'll do better. It doesn't explain, it holds space. 4. Invite feedback and sit with it. Ask someone close to you, do you ever feel like I don't really listen? Or, do I come across as dismissive when we argue? Hard to hear,
Yes.
but incredibly healing. 5. Reconnect with vulnerability. Let people in. Let them see your uncertainty, your longing, your confusion. The need to always be together is a trap. True connection comes from truth, not perfection. So, are you becoming a narcissist?
Only you can answer that.
But if you're still listening, if you're sitting with the discomfort, reflecting with an open heart, I can tell you this with confidence. You're already walking toward deeper self-awareness. And that, in itself, is powerful. Remember, we're not here to shame. We're here to learn, to unlearn, and to heal. Together. So take what resonated with you today and carry it gently. Reflect.
Talk about it.
Ask hard questions with soft eyes. Because ego isn't the enemy. Denial is. If this episode made you think, feel, or even squirm a little, that's okay. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever caught yourself doing something on this list? Or seen it in someone else? Let's have the conversation. Not with blame, but with courage. And as always, remember, this is not therapy. If you're struggling or unsure, please reach out to a licensed mental health professional. You don't have to figure it all out alone. And hey, if this episode helped you understand yourself or someone else just a little better, please consider subscribing, liking, or just sharing this with someone who might need it. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and remember, I'm right here with you, behind your mind.